It's 2 a.m. You told yourself one more game 3 hours ago, and you're still sitting there, controller in hand, wondering why you physically cannot stop. Here's the thing, it's not laziness, it's not bad habits, and it's definitely not a willpower problem. The science behind why you can't quit gaming at night is genuinely darker and stranger than most people realize. And once you understand what's actually happening inside your brain at 2 a.m., you'll never look at a late night session the same way again. Most people think it's simple. You're just having fun. You lost track of time. But the reality is that your brain at 2 a.m. is running on a completely different operating system, one that's been hijacked by sleep science, neurochemistry, and yes, deliberate game design. 10 specific things are happening to you right now, and most of them you've never heard of. Let's go through them. The first one is the reason most late night gaming sessions even start in the first place. Sleep researchers have a name for the window between roughly 8 and 10 p.m. They call it the wake maintenance zone, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Your brain produces a powerful arousal signal during this period that actively fights the sleep pressure that's been building all day. Not slows it down, fights it. This is the window where falling asleep is genuinely harder than almost any other point in a 24-hour period. Your body does this on purpose. It's an evolutionary mechanism designed to keep you awake and functional through the evening hours. And here's the kicker. Most gaming sessions start exactly inside this window. You didn't get hooked by a good game. Your own biology opened the door, sat you down, and handed you the controller. But that's just the beginning. Because once you're inside the session, something else takes over. And this one is where it gets dark. By 2 a.m., your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that generates the thought, I should stop, is not running slowly. It's not sluggish. It is measurably clinically reduced in capacity. Adenosine has been building up in your brain all day. Synaptic homeostasis is disrupted, and the neural networks that handle executive function are genuinely unstable. This isn't a metaphor for being tired. The stop mechanism in your brain has essentially gone offline. The organ responsible for quitting the game is broken. So when you sit there at 2 a.m. thinking, why can't I just stop? The answer is that the part of you that would stop isn't there anymore. You're not weak. You're running without a brake pedal. And it gets weirder, because what fills the gap when your prefrontal cortex goes down is something most people would never expect. Extreme tiredness produces a feeling that is chemically similar to being drunk. Late night shifts in dopamine signaling, combined with that reduced prefrontal inhibition, create a giddy, disinhibited state. Things feel funnier. You feel strangely creative. There's an odd emotional openness, like the world got a little softer and more interesting. Your brain interprets this neurochemical cocktail as something close to a high. Games feel more immersive at 2 a.m. The jokes land harder. The moments hit different. And that's not coincidence. It's the same mechanism as alcohol intoxication, just triggered by exhaustion instead of ethanol. Your filter is down. Everything feels elevated. And your brain naturally wants to stay in that state. That's important. But if you don't understand what happens next, you'll miss why quitting gets harder the longer you wait. Every time you push through tiredness, every just 5 more minutes, your body reads that as a signal, not a neutral one, a stress signal. Your nervous system interprets the override as an emergency. It thinks you need to be awake for a reason. So it releases stress hormones to keep you alert. What started as a choice becomes a physiological state. You're not just tired and awake. You're tired, awake, and now wired. And the more times you override the tiredness, the more cortisol and adrenaline build up, and the further sleep retreats. Every one more game digs the hole deeper. You are accidentally telling your body there's a threat, and your body is helpfully making sure you stay up to deal with it. Now here's one that a lot of people in this audience are going to recognize immediately, and it reframes the whole conversation. Not everyone is fighting the same battle at night. For people who are natural evening chronotypes, night owls, the late night gaming session isn't just habit. It's their biological peak. Research shows that late chronotypes have genuinely different dopamine timing. Their dopamine responsivity is higher at night, focus is sharper, reward sensitivity is elevated, and there's a significant overlap here with ADHD, which is disproportionately common among evening types, where dopamine differences affect circadian timing directly. For a large portion of people who game late, the night session is when their brain works best. Stopping feels harder because it's biologically timed to feel that way. This isn't an excuse, it's a diagnosis. And it changes what the solution actually looks like. But even if your biology is working against you, the games themselves aren't helping. In fact, they're making it worse on purpose. Unlike a TV show that ends with credits, or a book with a chapter break, games are specifically designed to have no natural stopping point. Before you finish the current objective, the next one loads. Before the mission ends, the reward screen appears. Before the reward screen fends off, the next match starts. Psychologists call what's been removed here a satiation point, the moment when you feel like you've had enough. Games don't have those, not by accident. The absence of an ending is a deliberate feature. It's the removal of the off-ramp. And your brain, which is already impaired and running on dopamine, has no natural moment to say, okay, that's done. Because it's never done. There's always a next thing. That's important. But there's a psychological trap layered on top of the design. And this one is specifically brutal at 2 a.m. By the time you hit 2 a.m., you've invested your entire evening. And research shows that time sunk costs hit differently than money sunk costs. We feel time loss more personally because time feels non-recoverable. You can earn more money. You cannot get that Tuesday night back. So stopping at 2 a.m. doesn't just mean stopping a game. It means admitting the entire evening is gone. Your brain refuses to do that. It keeps playing to retroactively justify the hours already spent, even as it makes the loss worse. The sunk cost fallacy is running in the background. And at 2 a.m., with your prefrontal cortex offline and your dopamine system in overdrive, you don't have the cognitive resources to override it. Now, let's talk about the screen itself. Because even when you finally decide to stop, the game has already made sure sleep won't come easily. Screens emit blue light, concentrated in the 460 to 480 nanometer range. That specific wavelength is the most effective at blocking melatonin production, and screens hit it exactly. Not approximately, exactly. The longer you play, the further your sleep hormone falls behind schedule. And here's why that matters for quitting. Even when you put the controller down, sleep doesn't come quickly. You lie there, awake, staring at the ceiling, and your brain notices. It registers that stopping didn't actually help. So next time, the argument for quitting gets weaker. If you're going to be awake anyway, why stop? The melatonin suppression doesn't just keep you up, it removes the incentive to quit. If you're finding this genuinely useful, and I think you are, drop a comment below with what time you usually stop gaming. I want to see the data. Now, the second most important point in this entire video, and this one explains why the later it gets, the harder it is to stop, not easier. At night, your brain's reward system shifts. Late chronotypes, and honestly, most people in a late-night gaming state, show a measurable change in how they value rewards. Small rewards feel almost worthless. High rewards feel intensely compelling. The gap between them widens. So, at 2 a.m., finishing the current level isn't enough. The small win doesn't satisfy. Your brain has become pickier and more reward-hungry, and it keeps pushing toward the bigger payoff, the win, the unlock, the rank up. Just one more level isn't just a habit. It's a neurological shift in reward valuation that makes you raise the stakes the later it gets. You're not chasing the same reward you were chasing at 9 p.m. You're chasing a bigger one. And the game, which has no ending, is happy to keep providing the next one. And now the most important point, the one that ties all of this together, the one that explains why this isn't just a tonight problem. Researchers at Flinders University found that adolescents push their bedtime back by 16 minutes for every 30 minutes they spend gaming in the evening. Every session, every night. That's not just staying up late. That's a measurable biological clock shift. Regular late night gaming gradually moves your entire circadian rhythm later, which means your wake maintenance zone shifts later. Your dopamine peaks shift later. Your prefrontal cortex degradation shifts later. The whole system recalibrates around the gaming schedule. And once that happens, daytime starts to feel wrong. Morning feels impossible. The night feels like the only time your brain actually works, which makes you more likely to game at night, which shifts the clock further, which makes it worse. It's a loop that rewires your biology over time, not just your habits. So, let's bring this together. Because the full picture is darker than most people expect. Your biology opens the door at 8 p.m. with the wake maintenance zone. Your dopamine system pulls you in. By 2 a.m., the part of your brain that quits has gone offline. Tiredness produces a chemical high that makes everything feel better. Stress hormones kick in every time you try to override it. The game itself has no off-ramp. The sunk cost of your entire evening keeps you locked in. The blue light ensures sleep won't come quickly even if you do stop. Your reward system shifts to demand bigger wins the later it gets. And every night you do this, your biological clock moves a little further into the dark. This isn't a willpower problem. It never was. It's 10 separate systems all pointing in the same direction. And most people are fighting all 10 at once without knowing any of them exist. Now, you know, and knowing which system is actually running the show is the first step to doing something about it. If this hit different than you expected, share it with someone who's been blaming themselves for not being able to stop, because they deserve to know it's not their fault. It's worth your time. Subscribe if you haven't. There's a lot more of this coming. The science is darker than you think, but at least now you can see it clearly.